Let's take a look at multiplying binomials. We're going to take an approach here where we're going to build it up from the area model right through to looking at FOIL. So if we start with looking at the area model right here. So just in the area model here, we want to just remind ourselves first of all that we're actually looking at the area of a rectangle. Right? So if you think of the area of a rectangle, this side right here. Right, this side right here, this blue plus green here, this whole side is x plus 2. So you could say, well, that is x plus 2, right? And then you could say this other side right here, right? This whole other side right here, this is x plus 9. So we've got what we call binomials, right? And we can multiply this out just looking at it algebraically as well, right? But let's just from an intuition standpoint, let's take a look at all of this just from the visual side of things, right? So if we take a look at each of these smaller rectangles and squares together, right, and we combine them all together, we can solve this just by doing it piecewise, right? So x times x, the area of this rectangle here this square here is x squared. And then this one here, this pink one here is 9 times x. The side here is x, so we've got x times 9, that's 9x. Right? That's the area of this rectangle, right? The area of this rectangle here is, well, we've got 2 on the side here, we've got x here on the other side, so that's going to be 2x. And then this rectangle here, we've got the side of 2, and we've got another side of 9, so it's 9 times 2 is 18. Okay? So all of these we can actually combine together, right? Okay, we have our, well, let me rewrite each of these out. We have our x times x, which is x squared. We've got our x times 9, which is our 9x. We've got our 2 times x, which is 2x. And we've got our 2 times 9, which is 18, right? These are our four different operations in here, right? 4 different multiplications, right? We've got these two here, we can combine like terms right here. So this one here gives us 11x. And then we can express all of this as a trinomial, x squared plus 11x plus 18, right? Okay, so that's looking at it from the area model standpoint. Let's take a look from the FOIL standpoint. So this is the part that we're going to actually start looking at a little bit more in depth in a moment. Right? Notice that your first one here, the first x times x was x times x right here. That's our x times x. I'm just going to color code these for you. I'm not going to do a lot with them, just color code them. Our second one here is our x times 9. Well, look at what's going on here. This is like distribution, right? There's your x times 9, right? And our third one here is, well, let me use this color right here. So our third one here is the 2 times x. These are these inside ones right here. And then our last one was, well, let's go with a purple there is nice. So our last one here is our 2 times 9, which is our last term. So what I kind of want to point out here is that our x times x is our first terms, right? The first terms in each of the binomials. Our x times 9, right? Those are our outside terms, right? They're the outside when we look in the beginning and the end. So there are outside terms, right? And then our 2 and an x, those are the inside terms. And finally, our 2 and our 9, well, they're the last terms in our binomials, right? So this is all I want to kind of show you real quick. Recognize there's 4 different multiplications going on here. We can get a trinomial from it by combining like terms. And if you look at it in terms of a binomial, you'll see your first, your outside, your inside, and your last terms. Okay? So this here is x squared plus 11x plus 18. Okay. So I'll show one more example on that real quick. And this time, I'll go back to the FOIL in a few moments. I'm not going to cover it again. I'm just going to do it really quick with these four rectangles here. So if we look at the four rectangles, we get x times x is x squared. X times 1 is just simply x. X times 8 is 8x. And 8 times 1 is 8. And so we can combine these together. That's x squared. We've got our 8x plus our x. That's plus 9x plus 8. Right? And so just to be clear, your x plus 1, which is this one right here, and your times x plus 8, right? The multiplication of these two factors is equal to a trinomial x squared plus 9x plus 8. All right, so moving on, okay? So the next part of this lesson here, we're really looking at going more in depth with this whole FOIL idea, right? Okay, so the same idea we had with the FOIL in the previous one here, we looked at the first, outside, inside, and last. So when we look at our binomials, these are our first terms, and then we have our outside terms, and then we have our inside terms, and we have our last terms, okay? So if we think of it like that, then we can do our multiplications, right? So let's take a look at that. So our first terms is x times x, that's equal to x squared. Our outside terms is x times 8, so that's x times 8, that's equal to 8x. Our inside terms is 1 times x, so 1 times x, that's equal to just x. And our last terms, and this is kind of convenient, it looks very similar to a previous example that we did, 1 times 8, that's equal to just 8, okay? So first we combine these like terms here, that gives us 9x, and then we can combine the whole lot, and that gives us equals to x squared plus 9x plus 8. Okay, so that's how you apply the FOIL method, and I've kind of shown you in the previous one as well, so maybe just moving on to keep this video a little bit shorter. So the idea there is you're doing your first, outside, inside, and last terms. It works every time. So let's dig in a little bit deeper, and let's look at something that is a little bit more complex. Okay, so if we look at something that's a little bit more complex, we'll see here, once again, no difference. Here's our first terms, our outside terms, our inside terms, and our last terms, okay? So if we were to set this all up, we set it up as our first term is equal to 7g times 5g, right? That's equal to 35g squared, okay? Our outside terms is 7g times 4, and that's 28g. Our inside terms is 2 times 5g, that's equal to 10g. And our last terms are 2 times 4, and that's equal to 8. Right? Once again, we combine like terms here, that's going to be 38g. And so combine the whole lot, now we get, this is equal to 35g squared plus 38g plus 8. Right? So another way of looking at this, of course, is you can look at the first terms, then your first and last, right? That's your outside terms, right? And your inside terms, and then your last term. So that's another way that you're just looking at it slightly differently, right? Okay. All right. So you can distribute if you like as well. All right. I'll do another one of those so you see that in both ways. So here we get 35g squared plus 38g plus 8. Okay, let's look at another one here, and this is nice to see because we get a subtraction in here as well. So another way of looking at this here is our first terms. Here's our first terms, and then our outside terms, and then our inside terms, and then our last terms, right? Okay, so our first terms There's our first terms. Here's our outside terms, right? Here's your outside terms. Your inside terms. And then your last terms, right? Those are your last terms. And I know it looks slightly different there. That's to kind of correspond with these arcs that we've created, okay? So if your first terms here are, first is 6x times 1, that's equal to 6. Your outside terms is 6x times, well, watch out for the negative there, this is negative 3x, right? And that's equal to negative 18x squared. Your inside terms are 1 times 1, that's equal to 1. And your last terms are 1 times negative 3x, and that's equal to negative 3x, okay? Now this is not in the order that you might actually expect it to be in. The second one here is kind of reversed order, just to keep the first term positive, for example, right? But it still works the same way. These are the two terms that we're actually going to combine now because they're the like terms. And so we get negative 18x squared plus 3x, 6x minus 3x is 3x, plus 1. And we're all done. Okay, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to get back to you.